Welcome back to Inside Love Minds, the show where we talk about love, heartbreak, and all the messy emotions that make us human. Today, we're diving into something I see all the time as a psychologist. This strange fear that people in modern relationships have, the fear of commitment.
And I'm Liam, your friendly voice of chaos and confusion when it comes to love. I swear, sometimes the word commitment feels like saying prison to people around me. It's like, oh no, you want a real relationship? I'm out of here.
You're not wrong. I think that word, commitment, has been demonized in our culture. It used to mean trust, connection, stability. Now it feels like sacrifice, control, and loss of freedom.
Exactly. Like, we've made independence the ultimate goal. Every self-help book says, love yourself first, which is great, but people are starting to treat love like it's a business deal. They're constantly calculating the risk.
That's actually a perfect way to describe avoidant attachment, one of the most common patterns I see in American dating. People who crave closeness, but the moment they feel it, they panic. It's like they want love, but only on their terms.
Oh man, that sounds familiar. I once dated someone in LA, beautiful, smart, independent. We had the best chemistry ever, and just when I thought we were getting serious, she vanished. Like poof. No fight, no goodbye, just silence.
That's the classic avoidant move. She probably wasn't rejecting you, Liam. She was rejecting what closeness represented to her: loss of control, potential pain, and emotional exposure.
So basically, I triggered her inner alarms just by saying I liked her?
Pretty much. When someone's afraid of commitment, love feels dangerous. They associate intimacy with pain, even if you've done nothing wrong. It usually goes back to childhood: inconsistent affection, distant parents, or experiences where relying on others didn't feel safe. So they learn early: if I depend on no one, I can't get hurt.
That makes so much sense. I mean, America loves independence. We grew up hearing, don't need anyone, be strong, stand on your own. But maybe that message goes too far.
Exactly. The Western ideal of independence, especially in the US and UK, is both empowering and isolating. It teaches people to survive alone, but not how to connect.
Yeah, like we've built a whole culture that worships freedom, yet everyone feels trapped in loneliness. You know what's crazy? I've met so many people in New York and London who say, I don't want a relationship right now, but then spend every night scrolling dating apps looking for connection.
That's the paradox. People want closeness, but they're terrified of what it might cost. It's easier to flirt endlessly, ghost someone, or keep things casual than to risk actually being seen.
Ghosting. Don't even get me started. I feel like half the people I know have ghosted or been ghosted. It's almost normalized now. Like emotional disappearing acts are just part of dating.
Totally. But beneath that behavior is a defense mechanism. Avoidant people use distance to regulate fear. They need space to calm their nervous system, but instead of saying, I need a little time, they just vanish because confrontation feels unbearable. Vulnerability feels like danger.
I've done that too, honestly. I've walked away from people who cared about me because I was scared I'd disappoint them. Or worse, that they'd see who I really was and decide I wasn't enough.
Thank you for being honest about that. That's the hard truth. Commitment doesn't just mean staying, it means being seen. It's letting someone witness your flaws, your past, your fears, and still saying, I'm here.
That's scary as hell. Because what if they don't stay?
Exactly. For avoidant individuals, rejection feels like annihilation. So they preemptively reject others before that can happen. They'd rather be lonely on their own terms than hurt by someone else's choice.
Wow, that's heavy. You know, when I was younger, I thought commitment meant losing my freedom. But now I'm realizing avoiding commitment was my prison.
That's beautifully said. Because avoidance gives you control, but not peace. You get to decide when to leave, but you never get to stay long enough to be truly loved.
Yeah, it's like renting a house, but never moving in. You keep the boxes packed just in case.
Exactly. You decorate the front porch, but never sleep in the bed.
Do you think social media makes it worse? Like all these apps, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, they give us endless choices. You're always one swipe away from someone better.
Definitely. That's the paradox of choice. The more options we have, the harder it becomes to commit, because choosing one person now feels like missing out on thousands of others.
Yeah, like we're shopping for love instead of building it. And when it doesn't feel perfect immediately, we return it like a bad purchase.
That's a sad truth. But real love isn't instant gratification. It's emotional growth. And growth requires discomfort. Avoidant people often confuse discomfort with danger. So the moment a relationship challenges them, they assume something's wrong, when in fact, that's exactly where the healing begins.
That hits hard. I've left good people because I wasn't ready to sit in that discomfort. It felt easier to chase excitement than to stay through the awkward, vulnerable parts.
We all do that at some point. It's human. We crave safety, but ironically, safety is built after we stay, not before. Commitment isn't a cage. It's the structure that gives love room to grow.
That's deep. It's funny how we think freedom means being alone, but sometimes freedom is finally being safe with someone.
Exactly. Real freedom isn't no attachment. It's being able to love without losing yourself.
You know, I used to think I was the guy who'd never settle down. But I'm starting to realize that settling down doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing someone and choosing yourself in a healthier way.
That's a huge realization. And that's where healing starts awareness. Once you can name your fear, it loses its power.
You know, it's funny. Sometimes I feel like people here don't even want to admit that they're looking for love. Like, if you say you want something serious, people instantly think you're desperate.
Exactly. It's almost like vulnerability became a weakness. The culture here praises independence so much that dependency or even emotional closeness feels like a threat.
Yeah, you're right. I remember this one girl I dated, she told me she didn't want a relationship, just something fun. And at first I was like, sure, no big deal. But then we started seeing each other every weekend, texting every day, meeting each other's friends. It was a relationship, just without the label.
That's so common now. It's what psychologists call pseudo relationships. You do everything a couple does, but emotionally, you're kept in this gray zone. You can't ask for more, you can't set boundaries, and if you do, suddenly you're too intense.
Right. Or they disappear, ghosted, poof, gone.
The famous ghosting culture. It's almost a coping mechanism. When people feel something deeper forming, instead of confronting it, they vanish. Because disappearing is easier than dealing with emotional responsibility.
You think that comes from fear of getting hurt?
Partly, but it's also about control. In a fast-moving society, control equals safety. If I can leave before I get too attached, then I stay in power. No heartbreak, no dependency. But ironically, that's also what keeps people lonely.
That's dark, but true. I've seen people swipe through hundreds of profiles in a night, but can't sit through one honest conversation.
Dating apps amplify the illusion of choice. When you have endless options, commitment feels like closing a door. People keep searching for something better, thinking love is a menu item you can upgrade.
Like, why settle for steak when there's sushi around the corner?
Exactly. But emotional connection doesn't work like a buffet. Real intimacy requires time, effort, even boredom sometimes. But we've been conditioned to crave novelty over depth.
That's so true. And maybe that's why so many people never fully invest. It's like they're half in, half out, just in case something better comes along.
That half-hearted approach becomes a pattern. We build emotional walls, call them standards, and convince ourselves it's empowerment. But underneath, it's fear. Fear of being known, fear of being hurt, fear of losing our autonomy.
Damn, I feel that. I've done that. You know, it's crazy. The more I avoided emotional risks, the lonelier I got. But when I finally allowed myself to open up, yeah, it was scary, but it also felt real.
That's the paradox. Vulnerability is the price of connection. You can't have love without risk. Yet modern dating teaches us to minimize risk at all costs.
It's like everyone wants love without the consequences.
Yes, we want the warmth of intimacy, but the convenience of detachment. We want the movie moments without the emotional labor.
You know, this makes me think of social media too. Everyone's performing connection online, sharing, posting, DMing, but offline, it's like people forgot how to sit in silence with someone and feel something.
Absolutely. Digital intimacy creates an illusion of closeness. You share stories, selfies, even traumas, but in a curated way. It's selective vulnerability. You show what's safe, not what's true.
So people learn to love through filters.
Exactly. And that bleeds into real relationships. When something imperfect shows up, like conflict or boredom, we panic because it doesn't match the highlight reel we've internalized.
Wow, that's heavy, but it makes so much sense. You ever think we're all just scared kids pretending to be adults who have love figured out?
Maybe we're just children of emotional instability, raised by movies that romanticized chaos, by parents who didn't talk about feelings, and by a society that told us to be strong, not soft.
Be strong, not soft. Yeah, I remember my dad saying that to me once.
And so we learn to associate softness with weakness. But love requires softness. It's the ultimate act of surrender.
That's the hardest part, like letting someone see your mess.
Yes, true intimacy isn't just about sharing the beautiful parts. It's about letting someone see the parts you hide from the world and still choosing to stay.
You know what's wild? People talk about wanting unconditional love, but they can't even tolerate discomfort.
Because unconditional love requires emotional maturity, and that's something our culture doesn't train us for. It teaches us achievement, productivity, efficiency, but not connection.
I guess that's why therapy is becoming so popular. People are realizing they were never taught to love or even how to feel.
Exactly. Therapy is teaching people emotional literacy. It's helping them name what they were never allowed to express. That's why I don't see the fear of commitment as a flaw. It's a symptom of emotional disconnection passed down for generations.
That's deep. So, in a way, people aren't afraid of commitment itself. They're afraid of themselves in commitment.
Beautifully said. Because commitment is a mirror. It reflects everything unresolved inside you, your fears, insecurities, childhood wounds. And most people would rather run than face their reflection.
Damn. Ava, you're making me rethink my whole dating life.
Good. That's the goal. Not to shame anyone, but to help people understand what's driving their patterns.
You know, the more we talk about this, the more I realize it's not about blaming modern culture or apps. It's about awareness.
Yes, because awareness is the first step to change. Once you understand why you avoid commitment, you can start making different choices.
So, what would you say to someone who recognizes this in themselves? Like, they know they run away when things get serious. What's the first step?
I'd say start by observing, not judging. Notice when you pull away. Ask yourself what emotion you're avoiding: fear, shame, loss of control. Then talk about it, maybe with a therapist or even just someone safe. Naming it reduces its power.
That's powerful. So, instead of running, sit with the discomfort.
Exactly, because love isn't the absence of fear. It's the courage to stay even when you're scared.
That's beautiful.
It's the truth. Love's not for the fearless, it's for the brave.
You know, Ava, this conversation reminded me that being vulnerable doesn't make you weak. It makes you human.
Yes, and humans are built to connect. No matter how independent we try to be, our hearts crave to be seen, to be understood.
Maybe that's what commitment really is. Not a cage, but a promise to show up again and again, even when it's messy.
Exactly. Because in a world where everything is temporary, choosing to stay is the most radical act of love.
Choosing to stay. Yeah, maybe that's what we all need to remember.
Thank you for listening, everyone. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who's still figuring out what love means.
And remember, being afraid doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're human, learning how to love.
We'll see you in the next episode.
So, Ava, we've been talking about fear of commitment for almost 40 minutes now, and I feel like I've learned more about myself than in any therapy session.
That's good. That's the goal. But I think what makes this topic so powerful is that it touches everyone. You don't have to be American to feel afraid of commitment. It's a very human fear.
Yeah, true. We actually got a question from one of our listeners. She wrote, "Why do I always chase emotionally unavailable people, even though I know it ends in pain?"
Oh, that's a good one. I think a lot of people relate to that. You see, when we keep chasing people who can't love us fully, it's usually because a part of us learned that love has to be earned.
Like we're trying to fix something from our past through the people we date.
Exactly. Maybe when we were young, love was inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes cold. So we internalized that inconsistency as normal, and now as adults, we unconsciously seek it out because it feels familiar.
Damn. So it's not that we like being hurt, it's that we recognize it.
Yes, familiarity feels safe. Even when it's painful, it's like emotional muscle memory. We replay the same pattern, hoping for a different ending.
Wow, that's kind of heartbreaking.
It is, but awareness is where healing begins. Once you see that pattern, you can stop chasing pain and start choosing peace.
You know, that reminds me of something personal. I used to date someone who never wanted to define the relationship. We were together for almost a year, but it was always, we're just seeing where it goes. And I told myself that was okay, that I was chill, that I didn't need labels.
But deep down, you did.
Yeah, deep down, I wanted to be chosen. But I was so afraid of losing her that I accepted crumbs. And when it finally ended, I realized I was scared. Not of being alone, but of admitting that I wanted more.
That's such an honest realization, Liam. Most people avoid that conversation with themselves.
I think I used to believe that wanting love made me weak, but now I see it's the opposite. It takes strength to say, I want something real.
Absolutely. There's nothing weak about wanting connection. It's the most natural desire in the world.
Yeah. And it's crazy how culture teaches us to act like we don't care, like detachment is cool. But it's actually exhausting to pretend not to feel.
That's true. Emotional detachment might protect you for a while, but it also isolates you. It keeps love at a distance.
So, how do people break that pattern? Like, how do you go from being avoidant or emotionally unavailable to actually letting love in?
That's a deep question. I'd say it starts with self-trust. Many people fear commitment because they don't trust themselves. They're afraid of choosing wrong, of being hurt again, of losing control, so they avoid attachment altogether.
That's so true.
The key is to rebuild trust with yourself. That means forgiving your past choices, learning your emotional triggers, and knowing you can survive heartbreak if it happens again.
So, basically, loving yourself first for real, not just as a quote on Instagram.
Exactly. Loving yourself isn't a slogan, it's emotional responsibility. When you know your worth, you stop begging for love that hurts.
I like that. You stop begging for love that hurts. That's powerful.
You know, Liam, it's funny. The fear of commitment is rarely about relationships. It's about the fear of being seen.
You mean like letting someone see who you really are?
Yes, the messy, unfiltered, imperfect you. We wear masks, charm, humor, confidence, because we think if someone saw our raw self, they'd leave. But the truth is, only real love can exist without masks.
That hits hard. I used to think I had to be the funny guy or the strong one, like I had to perform.
We all do it first, but connection begins when the performance ends.
I had a moment once with someone I really cared about where she saw me cry for the first time. I remember being terrified. I thought she'd pull away, but she didn't. She just held my hand and said nothing. That silence felt like home.
That's it. That's intimacy. It's not always about words or passion. Sometimes it's just being witnessed fully without judgment.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I realized in that moment that that's what I was afraid of all along. Not rejection, but being seen that deeply.
That's the heart of it. Love is exposure, and exposure feels dangerous when you've been hurt before.
So we build walls.
Yes, but the thing about walls is they keep out the bad, but also the good.
So maybe the goal isn't to destroy the wall overnight, but to start opening little windows.
I love that metaphor. You don't have to rush. Healing isn't linear. You open one window, let someone see a little more of you, and trust builds from there.
And maybe one day the wall becomes a doorway.
Exactly. That's how love finds its way in.
You know, I feel like this episode isn't just about Americans being afraid of commitment. It's about all of us trying to unlearn emotional survival habits.
Yes, we've all been shaped by cultures, families, and experiences that made love feel unsafe. But the beauty is we can relearn it.
That's the hopeful part, that we can actually change how we love.
Absolutely. And it starts with compassion for yourself and for others. The people who ghost you, avoid you, or can't commit, most of them are just scared, just like you were once.
Yeah. Hurt people hurt people, but healed people heal others.
Beautifully said. And when you choose to heal, you break the pattern for yourself and for everyone you'll love next.
I think that's the perfect way to end this episode.
I think so too.
To everyone listening, if you've ever been afraid of commitment, know that you're not broken. You're just human, learning how to feel safe in love again.
Yeah, and it's okay to take your time. Love isn't a race, it's a practice.
A practice of showing up, even when you're scared.
And learning to stay, even when it's easier to run.
Thank you for spending this time with us today. We hope this conversation made you feel a little more seen, a little less alone.
And if you did, share this episode with someone who's also figuring it out. Maybe they need to hear that love isn't about perfection, it's about presence.
We'll see you next time for another deep talk about the heart, the mind, and everything in between.
Until then, stay open, stay kind, and don't be afraid to love again.